Okay, so as I was saying a second ago, I have absolutely gotten hooked on podcasts here recently. It is one of my favorite things ever. It feels like you're just talking, or an old friend is just talking to you, and it provides such wonderful wisdom and insight into different parts of us, but also things that I feel like can apply in our businesses and oftentimes in our own lives. So I was listening to the Rise podcast, which is hosted by Rachel Hollis, and on one of the episodes, she had her husband Dave as the special guest. And she said, you know what, you've had an extraordinary career for being somebody who's so young. What would you say are the top 10 business principles that you have either learned or you wish you would have learned from when you started in your career to where you are today, which is what is the purpose of this class. So who is Mr. Dave Hollis? This is Dave. He is 44 years old, and he currently serves as the CEO of the Hollis Company. So he and his wife, Rachel, they have this company, and he serves as the leader. He is husband to Miss Girl Wash Your Face herself, which is Rachel Hollis. And prior to his current position, he worked for Disney, which makes me love him even more. He worked for Disney for 17 years, and his last position that he held was the president of theatrical distribution, which means he was responsible for getting the Disney, the Pixar, the Marvel, and all of the Lucas films into theaters across the globe, as if that's a difficult thing. It's not, but can you imagine? So during his tenure, hey, Lori, during his tenure, Disney had record-breaking sales, upwards of $7 billion in global ticket sales in just 1 year, and then the only studio to cross the 6 billion mark in 2 years under his leadership. So the guy knows his stuff, okay? Plus, he's kind of cute. Mm-hmm. So you guys know, even though this is considered a bonus class, I always include our mission and our vision. Multiple reasons. One, I want you to know who we are. And secondly, I want you guys to sort of think about what your own mission is for your life as well as your business. I think it's very important. In fact, I did a very scary Facebook Live today when I was at lunch about this very thing. And my mentor, David Scott, will tell me all the time, one of the single most important things that we can all do for ourselves is to come up with a meaningful life mission, life vision for ourselves, outside of just what we want to accomplish in our business. What do you want out of life? And that is not an easy thing to answer, by the way. It takes a lot of soul searching, a lot of digging. But our mission, the entire reason why we're here, and the thing that every decision that we make sits upon, is that we want to empower you and to help create opportunities so that you guys can live a very full life according to what full looks like for you. So then our vision, what supports that, is that we have to be the home for ethical and high-minded professional people, a magnet for these types of people, people who are committed to achieving what they want in a personal space, but also in a professional space. And I love that this company acknowledges both sides. It's not just you, the realtor or the agent, go out there and do what you do. It's you, the person. And this is the first company that I've ever worked for that did acknowledge that. So yay us. Values. Again, these are company values, but what are yours? What are your core values that everything else kind of sits on? And you may not have 7 like we do for the company. You may have 2. You may have 3. You may just have 1. That's okay. You just need to know what your values are and what you stand firm on. And lastly, our beliefs. So mission, vision, values, and beliefs. Tons of clarity comes from knowing what these are to you. So our beliefs, this is not at all our full list by any means. This is just a little snippet, but if you're interested in what our beliefs are, you can check it out. Charlie includes a button on every one of his Monday Morning Mojo videos that says the RE/MAX 1 Manifesto. That's a full explanation of kind of what we think of and who we think we are, who we want to be. It's good reading material. So let's just jump right in. And I want you guys to tell me if you agree, if you disagree, kind of what your take is on each of these, because I think that's where the magic is, where we can just kind of expand on it from our own perspectives. So the very first principle that Dave shares is striving for balance. And I feel like here lately, balance has become almost a buzzword. You know, that work-life balance. You hear that a lot, or at least I do. And it is about balance and striving for it.
No such thing.
But there is no such thing. There's no such thing. And at first that really struck me because I was like, yes, there is. I feel like I have balance, but I don't. At least I don't have it more than a day in a row. Because one day may be all about my family and work is not really that much of a priority. Whereas the next day it's all work all day and my family is not the priority, even though they should be, right? So you're never really fully like this. It kind of was like a seesaw, right? So Dave says that we need to remember that we work to live and we don't live to work, okay? So in other words, the work that you do should not consume you to where it takes you away from those that you want to spend your time with or doing the things that you want to do. So you make space for the things that you're personally passionate about and understand that that's okay. Just because we do real estate does not mean that we're limited in what we care about in other areas, whether that's your church or your fitness or whatever else you care about. Maybe you have really cool interests way outside of all of those things. That's okay. Make space for those. And give yourself, and I love this, give yourself the grace to know that balance really isn't a thing. And I think if we can do that, we won't be so hard on ourselves. We won't feel like, oh my gosh, I didn't do half of what I wanted to today, but man, what a great day I had with my family. That's okay. Okay. So, agree?
Agree.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Number 2, mentorship is important. So important. I feel so lucky to have the mentor in Charlie that I have in him. I think he probably doesn't even realize the type of impact he's had on me and probably many others, but I'm lucky also that I'm being coached by David Scott every week. I have a tremendous group of friends like you guys who constantly make me better, and I think it's so important for us to seek out a mentor that you trust who will help champion your growth in your organization. Very important. However, little caveat here, you want to make sure that you leave it to the mentor to decide, though, if they have the adequate time
If they want you or not.
to mentor you. Because here's the deal. If somebody agrees and they're like, oh, I just don't know if I can fit that in, they're not really going to be doing you as much good as what they could do if they had the actual time to commit to you. So put it out there, but understand that if they're like, I would love to, however, I have this much on my plate, it may not be for like a month or two. That's okay. Just let them make that decision. I also think it's a good idea, and this doesn't really apply here so much, but finding somebody outside of your business, outside of your industry who can help you, because that makes them much more objective. And they will provide you with a completely different perspective from somebody who's in this industry who does what you do. I think you can have more than one. I think you can have one like you guys who are here together in the same industry, in the same company, but then it's good to also find mentorship outside of that just so that they can develop other parts of you that maybe this mentor is not working on at the moment.
Who do you think that you have outside of your business? Because do you consider Dave, and I don't want to follow you later.
Nope. I need this interaction.
Do you believe that Dave is considered one in your business? Like, who should they complement our business? You know what I mean? Like, because it's easy in our networking things to find ones that and gravitate towards those that are kind of like, okay, like we can kind of do referrals or reflect each other, our businesses. Do you think that it should be like that, or it really doesn't matter? Just someone who is kind of doing what you want to do in life.
From where I stand, my own personal feeling on it is I want to know what parts of me do I want to work on, and who do I think can help me work on those things.
Okay.
Regardless of what industry they're in. I mean, I was telling Beth before you guys got here that podcasts, I would even say I'm being mentored by the people who are in the podcast. They don't have a clue who I am, but they are making a tremendous impact on the way that I think and the way that I kind of navigate certain areas of my life. And so I think that they can come in all shapes, all formats.
So just finding people that embody the characteristics that you want. Okay, I get that.
Yes.
I mean, that's easier, I feel.
So would that be like at the gym, someone, like even if it's an assistant who works there that takes an interest in you and That would be like a mentor.
Yeah, anybody that will foster that growth that you're seeking and will champion that and encourage you and challenge you and inspire you. And that can come from, I mean, y'all, even my toddlers teach me things every single day that I wasn't necessarily looking for, but oh my gosh, how amazing. You know, I think you just have to be open to it, and you have to see where that growth can come from and be open to that too. So wherever it comes from, I think just identify it, but also seek it. Seek it out.
I like that.
Stacey, this one will speak to you. Number 3, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Seek it out. You guys have been in another class of mine, I know, where we talk about going for no. You know, everybody thinks, oh, you got to get the yes. Go for no, because every no that you get not only makes you better and helps you deal with rejection a lot easier, but it gets you closer to the yeses.
Go for no and you will grow.
Yes.
Okay.
Boom. Hashtag. So seek discomfort. Being comfortable enough to take those assignments that bring you outside of your comfort zone. You guys have heard Charlie say that your success lies just outside of your comfort zone. That could not be more true. And I think if you look back on your own lives, and you can probably pinpoint those times where you were pushed, whether you agreed to it or not, where you look back and you're like, man, I'm so glad that happened because it taught me this about myself, or it proved to myself that I could do it on my own, or this is what I didn't think I could do, but I did. All because you were willing to take that one little step outside of your box. Okay. It's a willingness to move. And I love that. So many things can come as a gift from the courage of just being willing to take that step. But, and this speaks to what we're talking to, it's hard to experience new things if you just stand still in one place. That would mean that things would maybe come to you or happen to you, maybe, but wouldn't it be fun, or don't you think that there's a much bigger payoff for you as a person if you were willing to move closer to whatever that thing is? I love this one because I think too, in our world, the only constant thing is change. Everything moves at the speed of light, I feel like right now. And I don't see it slowing down anytime soon. So for us to be able to be like, you know what? I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to figure it out later. But say yes. Say yes if you can, but say yes. Don't just paralyze yourself and stand there because you're afraid that you might look silly, or you might say the wrong thing, or you might fall down on your face. Who cares? Seek it out. Okay. This is important. Number 4, brand yourself. Deliberately brand you. And this is the idea of coming up with initiatives and naming them, and also representing the value that these things have, or integrating them in your organization, all in an effort to make it all move forward. Each of us has a part to play, right? And each of us brings different things to the table. Each of us has our own strengths. So I think that's important to recognize that and understand that that is an extension of your brand. Those things that you can uniquely bring to the table are not the same as what she brings to the table, or what she brings. All of that makes you, you, and that is your brand, right? So you want to be very deliberate and very considerate of how you also champion your own momentum and the value that you bring to the table. So, hey, maybe you're not so great at contracts or whatever else, but you are the best advocate for your client through the negotiation process. That's a strength. That's something that you need to be deliberate about what you bring to the table and how that helps everything move forward. Also, and this is why accountability groups are magical, by the way, find people who can be those accountability stewards on your behalf. People that you give permission to that can check in on you and say, hey, so I know that you really wanted to continue drinking a gallon of water every day. Did you do that? Or have you done that? Give them permission to check in on you and help you stay at your best. I would love for somebody to check on me. Although I will tell you guys, I've not had a soda since Sunday.
Yes,
Woo-hoo!
I have.
Yes.
Right, but I'm proud of you.
I have not, but I don't ever drink it.
Right. So how do you figure out what your brand is or what your strengths are? Here's a good little exercise. You can write down those attributes that you would hope someone on an elevator would say about you if they were asked. And I really like that because it kind of simplifies it. And when those things kind of come to you, those things are the basics of what your brand is. And those things that people bring or that you bring to the table that other people perceive that you bring to the table.
Mhm.
Also, I would say this, if you're unsure like what the qualities are that you feel like or the attributes that kind of make up your brand, here's the other way to look at it. Consistent and high quality work is an extension of your brand. You guys, true story. So we have that land in Silsbee. We have not mowed it since we bought it. It's another story. So I had reached out on Facebook looking for recommendations on somebody to go mow it. This was like in March. So we didn't do it. We just were like, oh, we'll get to it. Well, it's November, excuse me. And there were 2 people that were recommended to us. Eric called one guy. The guy was like, oh, sure, I'd love to. I'll go out there and I'll get you a number within 2 days. That was a week ago.
Okay.
Eric has called him 3 times to follow up. He's left him messages. He's texted him, no answer. We call another guy 2 days ago. The guy hasn't even called us back. That's not consistent. That's not high quality work.
That's neither one of them have?
Neither one of
Oh,
them.
good.
So I was like, well, what do I do? And so I found another guy who does yards in Mid-County, and he knew somebody in Hardin County. So crisis averted. But what I'm saying is people think, oh, well, everybody does high quality work. Everybody's consistent. No, they're not.
Nope.
So if you can just that's why we focus so much on the fundamentals and mastering the basics, because if you can do just one thing consistently and at a level that's perceived as higher than another one doing what you do, you're way ahead, way ahead. Even if you just return a phone call, you're way ahead.
The bar's not that high.
I was just telling him today, I went out on a call yesterday, and I showed him houses, and he's gonna buy a house before January. And so after the 5th house, I kind of got comfortable with him, and I said, well, tell me, why did you choose me? Like, why? He said, because you're the only one that answered. He said, I reached out to 4 other agents, and he said, you answered.
That is crazy. That is so crazy.
In a business that we're determined, you know what I mean, dependent
In a
on.
business that has a million agents, all you
Yeah.
have to do is answer.
Answer
Yeah.
the phone. Yep. That's
We all
crazy.
know that by
Nice.
working with other agents. You can't
Yeah,
get
you do.
agents to answer agents.
That's true.
That's right.
Even whenever there's actually a contract on the line, sometimes.
That's it.
Sadly. 'Cause you're
So
like,
true.
oh, you take my money. Let me sell
Same
your house.
thing. Same thing
Yeah.
with us with this land thing.
Yeah.
Like that's gonna be a couple $100,
Yeah.
I'm sure, because it's like this high. But it's like we're trying to give you money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like
you won't take
you
it.
won't answer the phone. Like, it's
Mhm.
crazy. So anyway, true. Okay, so the next one, open and honest, right? That I feel like is so obvious, but it's often so overlooked at the same time. So practice radical candor. And there is a video on YouTube by Kim Scott. It's about 20 minutes that will go through this. It's sort of like I think it's a TED Talk in a way. But she goes on to talk about that it's important to create a culture or an environment that gives permission to people telling other people when they have done something that maybe isn't living up
I think her and I think radical.
to
things, but it's good.
expectations
You
that
have to have-
you've shared that you have set for yourself. So in other words,
Like, why
you
are
want
me?
people because you're
You
like
are
you're not doing
radically
what you need to
candid.
do.
You are openly
Like she's
honest.
open and
Yeah, we'll
honest.
hit you with the truth. You know what I mean? Even when it's uncomfortable sometimes.
And
Especially
she
if
will
it's
also
someone-
put you in check and say, hey, you said you wanted to do
Exactly,
this, so
yeah.
why aren't you doing it?
Yeah.
You need to create
It's a
an
good thing,
environment
yeah.
that will be a part of your communication
Yeah. 'Cause-
without taking offense to it.
Yes, because the truth is not always comfortable.
Correct.
Well, I think it's because in the last job, they talked a lot about being a challenger, that if you can't challenge people on their belief, like, so I'm gonna use whatever realtor because I have a relationship with them. If you aren't comfortable enough to say, I understand you have a relationship with this realtor, but is this realtor providing this, and this that I'm willing to provide? If you can't say that, then you're not doing anybody any justice. Like, even those people are gonna get screwed by their friend who's a realtor. Like, you have to be willing and comfortable enough to challenge people on their own
The truth
beliefs, because,
is necessary.
yeah, I mean, because people don't think of those things.
Mhm.
Like, I mean. and
Or even
relationships is
something as
important.
simple as like feedback. Everybody kind of shies away from
Yeah.
feedback because, what if it's not sparkly and perfect?
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
lean away from those moments where we could get that feedback because it could feel like, oh, well, or giving feedback. Well, I don't want to be mean or that might sound harsh or whatever. When in reality, the unkind thing to do, the meanest thing that you could do is not giving anyone any
I
feedback
don't have any idea.
and then they have no idea
And their house doesn't sell
what
for 6
happened.
months.
Or even in your
Yeah.
friendships or any relationship that you have, it's just a good idea to be as open and as honest as you can be. Because what you don't want is for somebody to look up and be like, well, why did that happen, without having any idea what they may have done wrong or what they could have done better.
It's almost like being on the outside of an inside joke. You know what I mean? Even though it's the same thing, but to not know, for you to know the truth and to not share it.
Yes.
You know?
Yes, totally. Next one, do the right thing. Again, it's obvious, but so many times that doesn't always happen. So this is also called integrity. It's doing what's right even when no one is looking at you. So also doing the right thing consistently. One of our key beliefs that y'all heard me talk about, I know you have, is if I consistently do the right thing, success is inevitable. That's so true with anything you do in life. If you consistently work out, what's going to happen? You're going to feel better. You're going to be stronger. If you consistently eat the right foods, you're going to have good energy. You're going to have great hair, great skin. It's about consistency. Eating a lettuce or salad one day is not going to make you healthy. It's consistency, right? So you want to work hard and you want to work with integrity, and you don't need to worry so much about what other people think of you, the person who is going to do the right thing. Even if everybody is going left, you go right. That is where the difference is for me anyways. Agreed?
Agree.
Totally.
Yeah.
Dave Hollis knows a thing or two. So how do others see you? This is another one. Perception is reality, whether we like that or not. What one person's reality is not going to be what your perceived reality of theirs is. Go for it.
Okay, the last thing we just said was not to worry about what people think about us, because, when you're doing the right thing. But then if perception is reality, how can you not? I mean, like, it's hard not to, you know what I mean? If that is the case, sorry.
To me, what this one speaks to is, yes, their perception is reality, but to me, if I'm doing the right thing and I know it's the right thing, then I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care if you think that it's wrong. If I know that it's right, then your opinion is a little bit kind of lower on that scale to me. If you know that what I'm doing is right and you feel bad about it, that's on you.
But this is about like trusted people, you letting them in. I mean, I think what this is speaking to is building you up.
So this is where you have a peer group.
Yeah.
This is where you have superiors or other people in your circles. Ask them to tell you one-on-one how you're doing compared to what they expect of you. I think that's a big one because we all kind of go to the
Or
table
how they
with
perceive you.
totally. I think we all go to the table with these preconceived notions of how other people should act or what they should do or whatever. But reality is we cannot assume anything, and we can't project what we think onto them or what they think about us or whatever. So have that conversation. Ask them to tell you.
Well, I think people perceive people different ways. Like you think you're coming across as very knowledgeable and whatever, and they're perceiving you as snobby and arrogant. So it's a good thing to ask people, how do you perceive me? Your safety net.
Yes, absolutely.
I think it's been good on the other way when sometimes my perception of myself is not what it should be. And so getting, what I mean, from
Right,
somebody
but
that seems like,
asking
no,
somebody.
it's actually better than, you know what I
But
mean?
that's
in
what
certain
Beck
areas.
did. I mean, when she
100%.
felt like she knew this customer, she said, "Why did you pick me?" That's how did you perceive me?
Yeah.
That's the same
Yeah.
thing. I
Yeah.
mean, that's exactly what you did. And then he's like, "You answered the phone." It all of a sudden sheds light to you on what's really important.
Yeah.
What
You
is
would
important to
think
people? Yes.
Yeah.
That's such a simple thing would make a difference to you.
Yeah, and it goes back to feedback. Again, it's just having those lines open to ask for it and understand that, yeah, you're probably going to get paid some really great compliments in there, but also make sure that you're paying close attention to how they're seeing you. In other words, what their perception is of you and the work that you're doing, right? Because that's their reality.
Right.
We don't have to agree. That's their reality, okay? But that's how they see you and how you can help them. So this will also help you to sort of align what your strengths are with their needs and how to help them too. But you're not really going to know unless you ask. Okay. Ooh, I love this one. Solve people's problems. So you want to be a solutions provider. That is so important. This starts with understanding what it is that your client, your consumer wants or what their problems are and what solutions can you provide that are specific to them as individuals. Because you guys know, I mean, one client is so different from the next, and each of them kind of need different things. So here's a good example. Two people can ask the same question to you, but they're going to come from two entirely different places. So in other words, like if a creative person comes to you and asks a question, you would respond to them like in the way that you feel like would make the most sense to them as a creative person. Whereas if a financial person came to you, you would probably respond in a way that you felt like would make sense to a financial person. Those two are going to come to you from totally different places, and how you can help them may be the same solution, but communicate it to them in a way that makes the most sense. Okay. I really like this one. Charlie always tells us as a staff, don't come to me with a problem unless you've thought of a solution first, regardless if that solution will work or not. In other words, don't just come and dump a problem on my desk. Unless you've got a way to make it better.
Yeah.
Unless you have a way to make it better. And I love that, because it's like, it's so easy for us to be like, well, this is wrong, and this is wrong, and this is wrong, and this needs to be fixed. When in reality, he's like, what are we going to do about it?
I like that you said.
What action are we going to take?
I like that you said that he said, even if you're not sure if it'll work, because yeah, at least you're making that effort. You know what I mean? Like you're that kind of mentality of try it. Okay, it didn't work. Try something else. Like, you know what I mean? 'Cause you're
Fail
not always gonna have the
forward.
perfect one, but exactly.
Yes.
Hey, I like that. Fail forward.
Yes. This one I love. It's what you guys are doing right now. Always strive to improve. And I think this is just being committed to what your own truth is, and kind of acknowledging where you are and where you want to go. And recognizing too that there's always a little bit of room where we can get better, and get better meaning just a tiny bit or a whole lot. And when it compounds over time, then you look up and you're this whole new person, and that's good. That's a good thing. So you want to feel open enough to present problems, right? It's okay to say, hey, why do we do it this way? What's a better way? Or how can we do this more efficiently? That's okay. You don't always have to just say, oh, well, that's the way it's always done. That is one of my biggest pet peeves, just putting that out there. I hate when people say, well, we've always done it this way. So what got you here won't get you there. Y'all heard that before? Okay. So this is kind of what we were talking to, what Charlie says too. Like, we can't penalize for people when they present a problem, but we can have the expectation and insist upon them that if they do present a problem, tell me how you think we should fix it. And this is so true too, because you guys know in your own line of work, there are alarmists out there who tend to create mountains out of molehills. And so when they're coming at you and they're like, and there's this problem and there's a fire we have to put out, what can we do to fix it? What have you thought about that would be a good solution here? And just kind of putting it back on them. Don't let them dump all of that on you.
Beth is great at that, to me. Navigating through the craziness and being that calm force at it. I've told you that before. Though.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Is when it does, you are. That's like, because you're like, just calm.
Well,
Even if she's like that inside, you're like, just, and do this, and tell them, and be like, you know, good at minimizing.
That original listing they kept on me about,
Yeah.
we don't have a lot of showing, but I mean, we don't have, why don't we have any offers? Why don't we have any offers? Like, and I'm sure all of y'all are with, I mean, you have experience. We don't have a lot of offers. And I look at them and be like, okay, what do you think we should do? Like, okay, because I mean, I knew we were having showings. And I mean, if you're getting the showings, then if the marketing is good.
Right.
Yeah.
But
The only
it's-
problem is the price.
Right. And so when I finally said, what do you think we should do? They said, I guess we should lower the price. And it was like much more effective when it came out of their mouth.
Right.
Versus
That's
me
what we
saying,
call
when they say,
self-discovery.
but when they say, we're not getting any offers, and I say, oh, well, why don't we lower the price? It's my idea.
Yeah.
But if I say, what do you think we should do?
And then just leave it to them, you're right. That's, yeah.
Well, and it's also how you perceive it, because you could have perceived that as an attack on you, and then
Exactly.
you attack back, and then, whereas you were like, okay, well, let's work through this. What can we,
What do you think we should do?
You didn't take it as an
Yeah.
attack.
Yeah.
Like, what do y'all want me to
And
do?
we're really quick
Like,
to do that.
Yeah.
With other realtors, when they say, it underappraised, and, well, okay, well, what are we gonna do? How are we gonna work it out?
That's right.
Yeah, you gotta stay calm.
Yeah.
Breathe.
So what did y'all
Big one.
think? Do you think that this is pretty
Great.
good stuff, right?
Oh, I got none. I'm missing
Oh,
one.
well, we can go back if we need to.
I might not.
Why don't you put them in a page? Do you have a
But you know,
one-pager?
I keep hearing,
I can make this a PDF.
Oh, I bet the meaningful life mission was.
Cause I missed a few.
I just keep thinking and hearing what we've talked about before is about, who's at your table. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because to me, it's the same thing with this. I mean, I'm thinking about in work, but even in our support system, who do you have at your table? Are they the ones, are you surrounding yourself with people that are a calling force, that are honest, even when it's hard to be honest, that are, you know
Yeah,
what I
I get your
mean?
picture.
It just makes me keep thinking about that, you know, but you know,
They're honest.
yeah, and then everything, you know, and who are you surrounding yourself with? Because it really does affect you in a whole. I mean, you know, like you're saying, do they inspire you? I think we were sharing something about that.
But they also have to be willing to listen, like it says,
100%.
you have to be open to hear criticism and, you know, and that's where that's your little comfort people that you can take that from. You can't take criticism from someone that you don't
Yeah.
respect or you don't,
Right.
you know.
No common ground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Well,
be
a lot
willing
of
to
people
grow,
that you
knowing
don't
there's
respect,
room for-
they're giving you the criticism because they're jealous. Like,
Sure.
you have to be confident that
That's
it's
the
coming
same
from
thing.
the right.
Don't let
yeah.
them at your table. You know what I mean?
You
If
are
they're
not at
negative-
them
If
again.
they're a draining force, yeah, that should not be in your table.
Yes, I
This
agree.
is my table.
Do not
This is
solicit
a big
advice
part of
from your
it.
negative sister.
Yeah.
Well, we
Yeah.
all-
Do not solicit advice, even though she's your sister. Like, I have a sister
No, I
like
don't,
that too.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we all
I
have a
don't.
family
You
member
do,
who's
you do.
draining.
Yeah.
Like,
But we tell our kids
Love
all the
them.
time,
And-
be purposeful on your friends, who you choose as friends, be purposeful. And then we sometimes are like, just take, you know,
Anybody.
and we don't realize that sometimes they're not, they're not someone to be at your table.
That's real for sure.
It is.
You guys have always heard like you're the sum or the average of the 5 people who are closest to you. And I've heard that probably 5 times over the last 2 weeks. And I'm like, okay, I hear you. You know, but it forces you to kind of take a look at who
Who are your
is
five
at
people?
your table, who's at your 5,
Yeah.
and do they make you better? Do
Do
they
they build you
champion
up?
your growth? Do they inspire you? And you guys know that inspire is really 2 parts.
Mhm.
It's to challenge you, but also encourage you.
Mhm.
It's both.
Mhm.
I mean, that's really kind of where that's where inspiration comes from. It has to start with kind of a thing that you're trying to do,
Mhm.
but also you need the encouragement to plow forward.
Mhm.
So, and then you have to look at the people who will be honest with you and the people who will sit you down and say, are you okay?
Yeah.
You need those 5. So,
Well, I think, you know, and I think a lot of us have this propensity in us, and I know, I mean, from a caretaker, and I can probably assume Lori's the same way, you get in this habit of almost being drawn towards broken birds, you know what I mean? I want to help them, and you have to understand that there's a time to be able to help people, but that's not necessarily got to be the group that's helping you to get to your next level, you know what I mean? Like, you have to be able to separate it, and it is, it's hard, but you're right, because it's so much easier to get drained more whenever you're trying to fill them up, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, there's givers and takers.
Yeah.
yes. One of the best pieces of advice that I got when I first had my twins, and I don't even remember who told it to me, probably somebody like that, the hospital or something. But they said, you know, as a new mom, especially with multiples, you have to remember that you cannot pour from an empty cup.
Yeah.
You have to do the things, even if it's just like taking a bubble bath at night when they go to bed, or if it's midnight, you still need to do something for yourself so that you don't always have to operate on an empty tank. And that was so true. And then they, you know, I always used to be so put off by like when you go on a plane and they're like, put your oxygen mask on first. And I was like, that's so rude. Like, why would you not put the mask on the person next to you or your child? And they're like, what good are you to them if you're dead because you can't breathe? Like, you
Yeah.
have to put your thing on first before you can help other people. And I was like, okay,
hard.
you know, and it's
You're right.
hard. It's very hard. So anyway, what was y'all's favorite? I mean, there's a bunch.
I need to make a mission statement. I've said that for a while.
I do like being a solution provider. I think that's a big
I
part
don't
of our
really have a mission
business
statement.
too.
I don't either.
And like you said, whenever, even
Word
like to
every
go
year.
into every situation with that intent to provide a
Mhm.
solution, it puts your perspective right, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? As far as that, so you don't feel like a down day if it doesn't go exactly how you want.
Mhm.
But I think about that like with your lunch that you just did, Ash, when we were talking about it, you know, about these are, how are you gonna discuss it with her? And going in, like you said, about, well, I'm gonna tell her that I think that it may not be the best decision, you know what I mean? to sell
And that
it
didn't
now.
work out. She wants to sell.
Well, that's
I think
good, but
they're
at
gonna
least
sell the
you
house.
were open about, you were going in with the right mindset though, of just wanting to help her and give her the truth regardless,
yeah.
you know what I mean? And but be there for you.
Okay, that's,
She's recording.
I know. I'll ask him some questions. These, I can ask him in front of Kate unless she wants to go.
Oh, Kate, you're welcome to
My
stay.
question is going back.
This is
Well, this is okay for that. What is home? Can y'all tell me about the people that home investor or like we buy? What are like those tell me if I don't know a lot of
I'm
that.
gonna go
I already
ahead
had a
and
meeting
shut
about
this off just so,
I mean, it's
because
not like
we're done.
private,
Kate, thank
but I
you
want-
so much.
Bye, Kate.
He really is cute.
He's precious.
Uh-huh.